What's going on? What is going on? What is going on, everybody? Everybody, welcome to the chat. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Y'all share the stream with as many people as you possibly can. I know it's not Friday, it is indeed Thursday, but y'all already know why I'm doing the streams or the uploads in this form and fashion. But that'll all be cleared up by this time tomorrow. So far, I only have patience is a virtue so far, even though it says I have 9 people that are live watching or 21 people watching. And okay, y'all are starting to pour in now. What's going on, Versatile Legacy? And again, thanks for sending that picture so I could post that up on the community page of that propaganda artwork from the other day. What's going on, Ashen and Darlene? What's going on? What's going on? Just gonna wait for a couple more people to get in here, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. It's quite a few things we are discussing today. Some things I couldn't even fit into the title because there's so much. Let's see here. What's going on? Vulcan, Letitia, Tonda, PD Chicago B1. What's up? What's up? Tina, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, Marie? And make sure y'all smash that like button on the way in. Hope everybody's having a good day. I'm having a cold day because we got a mix of snow and freezing rain today where I'm at. Not a lot, thank God. Unlike a place in particular in which was going to be one of my topics, I kind of just threw in there and I said I couldn't do the stream without talking about it. But we did get snow and freezing rain here, and I'm glad that it did not really escalate to the point where they thought it would, because that would have definitely messed up my travel plans for tomorrow. But I definitely will be hold on, y'all. I have to mute this chat right quick, because if it does, I'll keep getting distracted. Anyway, like I was saying, it would have messed up my travel plans for sure, but everything's on the up and up and everything's pretty much on time. So I will be leaving out of town tomorrow afternoon. Let's see, who else do we have? Vincent, Pinky, JYB, what's going on? You know, a lot of people was asking me, like, Torian, what's going on with your other account? We haven't seen you upload over there in a couple days. I said, if you saw my live stream that I did on this channel addressing it, you would know what happened. But basically, I had got a strike on that channel and I couldn't upload for a week. But that week will be up tomorrow morning at 6:44 a.m. because that's when I got the email last week. So what I'm gonna do is, when that time comes tomorrow, thankfully I'll have enough time to actually do this. Otherwise, y'all wouldn't have gotten any videos from me going on into the next week. I'm going to just set and schedule my uploads like I usually do, but I'm going to have to do them like for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And when I'm able to schedule them. So the Boogeyman will be back on the main channel tomorrow. You probably won't have much interaction from me because I will be traveling, but I said I'm going to give y'all something to watch. And all the videos that you will be receiving, and what I'm saying right now, I'm going to reiterate in the very first video that I upload on that channel tomorrow, which is going to be like a reintroduction back to the users of my channel, is I know that some of the commentaries you will hear are like over a week old, and that's only because I could not upload them on that channel. That's why I was doing these live streams for the last few days, so I wouldn't be so backed up with commentaries. Otherwise, I would be so backed up with pre-recorded stuff. So thankfully, this live stream channel was able to be retrieved and found, so I would not have to be so behind. So it's basically me getting ahead of the curve. So it's almost like when I'm uploading the other videos, you may have heard the stories already, or you may have not, but you'll be hearing them from me. What's going on, Mark? HRM Black Grinder first. Everyday Peoples, what's up? Good afternoon, Joy. Tony, you said you got your power back on and was off for 2 days. I feel for y'all in Texas. Like, that's crazy. But like I said, that's definitely going to be that's probably one of my first topics that I talk about. And all the shenanigans that's going on down there. What's going on, Mickey Bricks 2.0? And definitely be on the lookout because them trolls might try to pop up in here like they did a couple days ago. Like, they came out in full force. And I think it was all one troll because their lingo was very similar to every post that they made, even though they were posting under different accounts. So definitely be on the lookout for those trolls. I'm going to give it another few minutes, and then we'll just go ahead and get started because, like I said, I have a lot of things to discuss today. What's going on, AK Sour God? So far, it says I have 40 people in here. I don't know how many likes I have because I can't see it. Probably started about 4:08. No need to really drag it on. You know, if people catch it, they'll catch it. If not, you know, they can catch the playback. What's going on, Hood Mistress Reloaded, and salutations to you as well. Ashley said Huey P. Newton's birthday was yesterday. Well, happy belated birthday to one of the founders of one of the greatest organizations that the black community ever benefited from. And he passed away the year I was born, which was in 1989. Give it one more minute and we'll go ahead and get started. It says it's 47 people watching, but I doubt it's 47 people in this chat. What's going on, Coco Hugh 7? He said, hey, Torrent and everyone else, hope everyone is staying safe in this storm. Yeah, I'm safe. I'm not in Texas, but I do have family that is out there and they're doing good. I don't know what it is about that Twitter stalker that you got, Hood Mistress, but you've been dealing with them for the last couple of years. I'm going to talk about all of that, Vulcan. Okay, it is currently 4:08, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen right quick. And like I said, the first thing I'm going to talk about is what's going on in Texas. Let me see if I can move this. Oop. Oh, wait a minute. Move this over. Okay. I said, let me just go ahead and just pull up the different articles that's sitting right there. You know what's so crazy? All I did was type Texas into the Google search, and this is what comes up. Like, this is all that's being talked about. Really, it's all that needs to be talked about when it comes to the state of Texas. Now, do I have any subscribers that's in the chat right now that is in Texas currently at the moment? I know some people said that they just got their power back on. I think I forgot who said that they got their power back on after being without power for 2 days. I remember one of the biggest snowstorms I remember when I was younger. I was a teenager. I was in high school. And we had a snowstorm so bad that we didn't have power for almost 2 weeks because that snow piled onto the power lines. Let me take this out. The snow had piled onto the power lines so thick and heavy that it knocked our power out. And then when the snow kind of went away, the ice on the power lines froze. So we was without power for like almost 2 weeks. So yeah, it was a madhouse during that time. Vincent, I'm not talking about the blizzard of 96. I do remember that when I was even younger when that happened. But the one I'm talking about happened when it was like '04 or '03 or '04. It was in that region right there. A lot of people overlook that particular blizzard because they think of the '96 one was very devastating. But I was very young when I was like 7 when the '96 one happened. But the one I'm talking about happened in like '03 or '04. I can't remember what year exactly, but it was somewhere around that time period. But the people in Texas are going through it. I've seen video clips online of people showing how their roofs have caved in. People have massive flooding, so a lot of their property has been damaged or destroyed. I know them, and I know that insurance is about to kick in. It's crazy out there because those homes out there, they're not built to withstand the pressures of snow, because Texas isn't a snow state. It's not like the East Coast, or the upper East Coast, I should say. So they're not used to that. So their homes are built differently, and they're not built to withstand that kind of pressure. And that's what you saw. Like, I kept seeing so many images and clips of that happening. And then I'm like, first off, a lot of the people down in Texas, did y'all hear about that 100-car pileup because the people was driving out in the snow when they shouldn't have been driving out there? 100 cars or 100 vehicles piled up, just jumbled on top of each other. It looked like a scene out of an action movie. I'm like, if y'all can't, first off, if some of y'all can't drive on a regular day, but you want to go driving in the snow, and many of you have never experienced being in the snow, let alone driving in it. So I would have not been out there on that road like that. But yeah, I think the biggest issue that people are having with this storm is how a lot of the officials down there are, I would say, not dealing with it. And there's a few people that have people upset. One, of course, is Governor Abbott of Texas. He was one of the first ones I heard about in the comments that he made. Then, of course, you had the mayor. I think he was a mayor who basically, this guy right here. Let me click on the article. It's right here. The Texas mayor resigns after telling residents desperate for power and heat, only the strong will survive. Now, he said all of that crap, and then he gonna resign after he says it. If that ain't some weak sauce, I feel for y'all down there who got these politicians, and y'all know why I call them politicians, because they will lie to the people to get their vote, and they will trick people into getting their vote and keeping them there. Like, who are you to tell your residents that and then going to resign after you do it? Wow. Why even run for office? But I think the biggest one that has come out so far is Ted Cruz. That recently just came out like today. So in case y'all didn't know, Ted Cruz is, of course, the senator of Texas. And I don't know how he keeps getting reelected to that position, but hey, it is what it is. He literally got out and took a plane to Cancun, Mexico, like right across the border, like went from Texas to Mexico and went to Cancun in the midst of this storm. He had his mask on, and people had took a picture of him because they thought, they was like, that looks like Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, even with the mask on, because he tried to disguise himself. So someone took another picture of him, and I guess, I don't know where he was at, but he was sitting down reading something, and he didn't have his mask on. And they was like, that is definitely Ted Cruz. What's going on, Tatiana? They said that is definitely Ted Cruz. And so they took the picture and they posted it up online, and the picture ended up going viral. It's now currently trending. Last I saw on Twitter, like it's #1 trending in the world right now of him going to Cancun. Now he's trying to clean it up and say, oh, I think he tried to even put it on his kids. Like, I'm like, look, you just wanted to get out of the situation. Just say it. Own it. You've been caught. Even with your little disguise, you got caught. But those are the officials they keep electing down there, or anywhere for that matter. This reminds me so much of Katrina. And ironically, Texas is next door neighbors with Louisiana. It reminds me so much of that. The only difference is Louisiana has been known to get hurricanes before. Texas is not known to get snow. I think they said the last time Texas had a massive snowstorm was like over a decade ago, probably longer. But this shows you right here that a lot of these politicians, or I call them politicians, don't care about the people, but the people keep electing them. Why? I have no clue. Just like, look at when I always talk about Owsley County, Kentucky, and how run down and poor that place is, and the people just keep putting them back, keep electing those people back in, because they know that they're going to get something on the back end, but a lot of the times it could be a detriment to them. In the end, at the end of the line, it's going to be a detriment, but they keep putting them back in. What's going on, Amara Woods? But yeah, that's what Ted Cruz is at. Taking a plane to Cancun. Nice, sunny, 85-degree weather Cancun. Because I think they said it was 85 degrees out there. And now he's saying he's coming back. He wasn't going to come back if he got caught. If he didn't get caught, he would have kept his ass right on out there. In the warmth. 007 Spidey, you're already a mod. I made you a mod on the last stream, and I can see the wrench right here. But yeah, hopefully, you know, those people down in Texas are good. And also, shout out to Professor Black Truth, because he had made a post yesterday, and it was a word. I'll put it like that. It's quite a word, where he was basically saying how, and I'm trying to remember, maybe not verbatim, but let me paraphrase, how the grids, I don't know, in Texas, maybe y'all can clarify something for me, that the grids in Texas are split up. They're not all on one power grid. They're split up into sections, and they're harder to regulate. I think they did it for cheaper electric bill prices, and they're not easy to regulate because they're of them being split like that, which is why a lot of people's power went out so easily the way that it did. And they said that was something the people voted for. It's almost like the government has no say-so with their power grid. So now that they're in this situation, they are literally on their own. What's going on, Shahid Simon? Can someone who's in Texas clarify that for me, please? Because I want to make sure that I don't have that this is misinformation. Because that's what I gather. I'm trying to see if someone can respond to my observation about what I just said. Okay, Tonda, she's in Texas. She says, I was in one of those grids, but I didn't know about it. Of course, you probably didn't know about it because they probably voted on it behind closed doors. A lot of the stuff that they do is behind closed doors. And usually not at the benefit of the people, but for their pocket. Okay, Eastside, yes, the electrical grids in Texas are privatized. The U.S. government has nothing to do with it. Okay, so there it is. So the people in Texas literally are on their own. They are on their own. I bet you they wish they didn't do that shit now. But this shows you right here the con of not being dependent on your government. This is probably one of the times they wish they were. And then I'm seeing stuff about, they said make sure that you boil your water and everything. Do not drink the water, of course. But who in their right mind would do that? And I've seen pictures of that water. That water looks, whew. That water looks looks crazy. Not, I wouldn't say Flint crazy, but it's not drinkable. I'll put it that way. You said Vulcan said, I read it in the article that 90% of Texas power grid is owned by a private company. Well, there it is. Yep, they said they privatized the state. That's what happens when their state goes private. Now, you know what's so crazy? A lot of people, especially those who live in California, like to flee California because of high prices to go to Texas. I wonder what they're thinking about right now. They're probably looking at like, either I'm gonna stay in California, I'm gonna find some other place to live. But now that Texas knows that they can get these big snowstorms like this, now they can be better prepared. That's just like a few years ago. If y'all live in the DMV area, back in 2011, there was an earthquake that rolled through here. It was a little small earthquake. It lasted not even a minute. It was scary, but it lasted like a minute. I said from that point forward, I don't know if they put it in legislation or not, but they should have, that they need to have some kind of earthquake insurance for this area. Because all it takes is one. The thing about earthquakes is there's no warning. Earthquakes are like the only natural disaster that does not have a warning. Snowstorms have warnings. Tornadoes have warnings. Hurricanes have warnings. Earthquakes do not have a warning. It just happens. And it also lets us know that we are sitting on a fault. Right, Vincent said, you said long enough to go dub TF. Yeah, that's exactly how I was feeling. It scared the shit out of me. I was just chilling at home, laying down, and all of a sudden my bed just starts rocking back and forth, and stuff started to fall. I'm like, what is going on? Esau said, also, the Texas government did not winterize their equipment. I know that type of weather is rare down here, but it has happened before, so you know it's going to happen again. Right. It's not like Texas has never gotten snow. It's just that they've never had a big snowstorm like this, and you always have to be prepared. No, gone are the days where snow apparently is only an East Coast thing. Apparently now it can expand out to the Midwest. I would not be surprised if in the future California gets a snowstorm or a massive snowstorm like Texas did. So California, they better be on guard. Because if we on the East Coast can get an earthquake, like the West Coast gets plenty of them, who's to say snow cannot happen, or a big snowstorm or a blizzard cannot happen over there? But yeah, I hope all the people that's out there in Texas, find a way to pull through this, because this is the worst, and this is the worst time for it to happen. You're talking about in the winter time when it's cold. People don't like being outside when it's cold. So it's a mess. It really is. This is probably one of the first major natural disasters of the year, and it's only February. Just imagine what it's going to be like when the weather breaks and it starts getting warm, and those storms that's going to come through there as well. But I hope all the people that's in Texas can pull through, and also make sure that y'all try to find a way to get those polytrictions out of there, because they have shown that they don't give a damn, and I do mean 2 dams about you and your well-being. With that being said, let's move on to the next topic, and that is of Rush Limbaugh. Now, I had to talk about this, and y'all knew I was going to talk about it too. Y'all don't even have to ask. Now, unfortunately, because I don't have access to my main channel right now to do a triple P the way that I want to, I decided that I'm going to go ahead and play this song anyway. Now, I couldn't find the music that I usually use, because apparently I don't think it's up on YouTube anymore, but thankfully I downloaded it, so that's why you always hear it. But I found the new one that's about 2 minutes and 15 seconds long. So here it is right here. Let me see if I can scroll it back a little bit, increase the sound. Okay, I guess that's it. Okay, so we got that out the way. I didn't want to talk over it because it was a new song. I wanted to hear how it sounded because who knows, I might add that into my future Triple P's. I don't know. So, y'all knew it was going to happen. Y'all knew that that was coming. I couldn't do it in a format that I usually would do it in, but you know, it's rare that y'all get a Triple P on a live stream. And how ironic that my viewers increase when that happens. Y'all more petty than I am. But anyway, so I didn't want to really come on here and talk about Rush Limbaugh and, you know, as a person. I mean, we already knew that he was a parasite on this earth. Now it's crazy because of a couple of things. This man got diagnosed with cancer over a year ago, right before this month, and he dies in Black History Month. That was one thing that stuck out to me yesterday. And I'm sure that it stuck out to you as well. The fact that he died in a month where he had a huge disdain for the people that it represents. Now, I was listening to a commentary or a live stream earlier when they were talking about Rush Limbaugh, and they pulled up this particular article right here. And it's talking about the top 10 racist Rush Limbaugh quotes. And I heard some of them. This man was absolute garbage. Trash. Let me just scroll down and let's get here. Well, let's look at some of these links. Well, I'm not gonna click on the links, but I'm gonna look at some of them. It says Limbaugh says Steinbrenner was a cracker who made African Americans millionaires. Limbaugh also said Obama and Oprah are only successful because they are black. He says he called Governor Patterson a massa. He called Obama uppity. He said Kennedy had Negroes serve him booze. He said, what did he say? Rush Limbaugh goes off on Mexicans. He says black frame of mind is terrible. Tiger's women not helping. I'm guessing he's talking about Tiger Woods. So let's go and get into these quotes. Quote number 1. Have you ever noticed how all composite pictures of wanted criminals resemble Jesse Jackson? Quote number 2. Right. So you go into Darfur and you go into South Africa, you get rid of the white government there, you put sanctions on them, you stand behind Nelson Mandela, who was bankrolled by the communists for a time, had the support of certain communist leaders, you go to Ethiopia, you do the same thing. Number 3, look, let me put it to you this way. The NFL all too often looks like a game between the Bloods and the Crips without any weapons. There, I said it. I think that quote right there stuck out to me the most for obvious reasons. Number 4, the NAACP should have riot rehearsal. They should get a liquor store and practice robberies. Number 5, they're 12% of the population. Who the hell cares? Number 6, to an African American female caller, take that bone out of your nose and call me back. Number 7, I think the media has been desirous of that a black quarterback do well. They're interested in black coaches and black quarterbacks doing well. I think there's little hope invested in McNabb, and he's talking about Donovan McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance in his team that he really didn't deserve. Now, this is a long quote right here. It says, he said Limbaugh's many attacks on Obama. He says Limbaugh has called Obama a African American. He has said that Obama was not black but Arab because Kenya is an Arab region. And even though Arabs are less than 1% of Kenya, since mainstream America has become more accepting of African Americans, Limbaugh has decided to play against its new racial fears, Arabs and Muslims, despite the fact that Obama graduated magna cum laude. Let's see, because I really don't feel like reading too much about Obama myself. He said he's called him a terrorist, a traitor, a socialist, off with his head, so on and so forth. Number 9, we need segregated buses. This is Obama's America. And number 10, Obama's entire economic program is reparations. I know I won't miss this man. Now, those people on the right probably are. I'm not. He's facing the same fate as one of his other conservative talk show buddies, Don Imus. You know, Don Imus, he kicked the can last year. All right, Stephanie, we should still be here depending on how long you're gone. But, yeah. Rush Limbaugh finally is up out of here. Look at it. He stayed long enough to see 45 lose that election. He thought he was going to stay here to the end. Honestly, he stayed alive a lot longer than I thought he would. Because when we found out last year that he had this advanced terminal cancer, we was like, oh, he going to be out of here before the year is out, probably before the summer. Nope. But maybe it was in the plans for him to get up out of here this month. The same month that represents the people that he has a disdain for. Now that he has died in Black History Month, that will forever be etched into his legacy. Eternally, he will always be known as that guy who hated black people who died in Black History Month. I think that's the best karma right there besides him actually dying. Let me see what y'all talking about in the chat. Senior 34 says, one of Satan's favorite sons has returned. Rest in piss, Limbaugh. What's up, Jordan? I don't even know how he got on Eastside. I don't even know how he even got on ESPN. But he is up out of here. He will not be missed, at least by me. And I'm sure those of you in the chat won't miss his ass either. Let's move on to the next topic because I didn't plan to stay on Rush for too long. Speaking of another person who got the boot, not in that way, but they did get the boot. That is none other than Cynthia Erivo. So it was a lot of controversy when they were saying that this woman was going to be portraying Aretha Franklin in some kind of television movie or whatever. And everybody was immediately against it for the most part, including myself. Because I'm like, so you're going to have this woman play Harriet Tubman, which was horrible. Now you're going to have her come and play another icon, which I'm sure is also horrible. But look at her. This is her right here portraying Aretha Franklin, or who was supposed to be Aretha Franklin. And also make sure, if y'all haven't done so already, to text that number right there above this fake Aretha Franklin's head, so y'all can receive notifications every time I upload a new video. Shout out to Jordan in the chat for actually putting that in the chat. So she was supposed to be Aretha Franklin. In what universe, I don't know, but not this one. But people went in on her on social media because, you know, she's had some words about Black Americans. And you are playing a Black American woman who's an icon. Not only an icon, but she was definitely about her people. And I'm almost certain that she would have not wanted you to play her. Not only did we have words for her, but Jennifer Hudson also had words for her too. Like basically saying like, nah, this is not it. And everyone know, in case y'all didn't know, Jennifer Hudson is portraying Aretha Franklin, who, by the way, Aretha Franklin went to her herself before she died, a few years before she died, and said, if there's a biopic made about me, I want you to play me. And I'm so glad they honored her wishes. Because I've seen the trailer for the movie when it came out, because it was supposed to come out last year, but, you know, due to everything that's going on, they had to push it back, and I think it's coming out in August of this year. I've seen the trailer. Jennifer's going to knock it out the park, hands down. I don't see a flaw in her performance. I see her killing that performance. But as for this one right here, nah, they just need to kill that performance. Like, look at her. She doesn't even look like Aretha Franklin. I don't even want to watch the movie or whatever it was that was on TV about her. Don't send that to me. Rodney says she looks like Louise Jefferson. But yeah, Jennifer Hudson went on her too, and rightfully so. But everybody did. But the point of the matter is, everybody went in on Cynthia Erivo so harshly on Twitter. She ended up deleting her Twitter account. And guess what? There wasn't really a rally behind her to say why did we do that. Now, I'm not saying I did, because I didn't go at her, but a lot of people did. They got her up off Twitter. She ended up deleting her account. I don't know if her account, if she brought it back up or if she made it private or what have you, but it was enough for her to get up off of Twitter. Like, this is not Aretha Franklin. It's not. A blind man can see that. Spirit of Justice said that's Danny Glover. Y'all crazy. But I won't be watching now. Like I said, when the Jennifer Hudson version comes out in August, I will watch that, because that's the one I really want to see. But that's pretty much all I have to say about her. Let's move on to somebody else. Somebody else who we have a problem with, who's also now having problems of her own. And that is Rachel Dolezal, Miss Transracial herself. Stupid ass term. So, Rachel Dolezal is back in the news again. She still finds a way to keep herself in the news, but the thing is, we don't really care about her, so it is what it is. But she just finds a way to try to stay in the news. It says transracial Rachel Dolezal whines that she can't get a job. She's still jobless, y'all. She's still jobless. I thought it came out that she didn't have a job a while ago, but she's still jobless. It says infamous race faker Rachel Dolezal, the white woman who was outed for pretending to be black in 2015, still insists she's African American. She needs to drop that act. We know that she's a white woman. And complained in a recent interview she's been unable to secure a new job for 6 years. So I'm trying to figure out, what has she been doing for 6 years? And the crazy part about it is, it wasn't other black people that outed her. It was her parents. Her PC parents outed her. Dolezal, age 43, who now goes by the Nigerian name Nkechi Amare Diallo, sat down for a talk on the Tamron Hall show to whine about how she wishes people could see her for who she is rather than what she is. Bullshit. We gonna see. Not only do we see you as a white woman, but we see you as a fraud and a con artist. To the point where we see you for what you are. The nerve of this woman to go on there and try to get sympathy after what she did. I started with applying for all the things that I was qualified for, and after interviews and getting turned down, I even applied to jobs that didn't even require degrees, being a maid at a hotel, working at a casino. Dolezal told the former Today host in the interview, which aired on YouTube Monday. See, here's the thing. Nobody wants to deal with her crap. They know she's a controversial person. So imagine if a company hires her and they see her working there. That looks bad on the company. So that's why no one's hiring you, Rachel. And I'm calling you by what you were born as, not what you want to be called. I wasn't able to get any of those jobs either, she lamented. While employers didn't outright tell Dolezal the culture vulture scandal was the reason for her rejections, she said it was hard for them to look past the false information available on Google and Wikipedia. What about it is false? You're a white woman who pretended to be black and carried on with that farce for years and got exposed. The only place that my true story lives is in my book, Dolezal said, waving a copy of her widely lambasted memoir in full color. The only reason she was waving that book was so people could see it in hopes that they would buy it. Listen, ain't nobody buying that book except for maybe to prop up their chair that is loose with a loose screw or screw loose, or to use it to keep warm by burning it in the fireplace if they don't have any wood. I think that people, aren't going to seek out my book if they're just looking for an employee. So it's been tough for sure, but I have not given up. Dolezal, who identifies as transracial, and I swear she's probably the only one that does, someone who identifies with a certain race, even if their biology is different, says she's been braiding hair, writing grants, painting, and doing pep talks on Cameo to make ends meet. The mother of three and former NAACP leader also doubled down on her perceived black identity, saying she's always identified racially as human. Notice I had to pause when she said that. She identified racially as human. But she's found more of a home in black culture in the black community. Okay. And that hasn't changed. Dolezal continued. I'm still the same person I was in May of 2015. I'm still doing the work. I'm still pressing forward. But it has been really tough for sure. In 2015... Dolezal, who taught Africana Studies at Eastern Washington University, was outed as a race faker after a local news reporter unearthed photos of her as a child and spoke to her parents, who were unequivocally Caucasian. She was ousted from her jobs and widely criticized for her dishonesty. See, here's the thing. She still feels that she was done wrong. She still thinks that people should get over her being a fraud and a con artist. Rachel, that's what you are. You are a con artist. You are a fraud. You are not a black woman, no matter how you wear your hair, no matter how many heads of hair you braid, no matter how many black people you teach African studies to, no matter how many degrees you got from Howard University, no matter how many times you spoke at an NAACP event, or no matter how many times you taught at another school or wherever else that dealt with black people, or no matter how much you like black culture. There's a lot of people that love black culture. They abuse it, but a lot of people love it. But even they know not to go to the outer limits like you did. She took it a whole step in. That's all I can say. She went out there with it. And she thinks that she's the one that was done wrong. And that we should feel sympathy for her. Listen, I don't feel nothing for this woman. I wish she would just go away, live her life, and stop trying to clout chase off of black people. This is one woman right here who PC privilege did not work in her favor. Because she could have easily gotten away with this. But she was in the delusion because she's tricked herself into believing that she's black. So what if you identify with black people or black culture and everything like that? At the end of the day, you're still not a black woman. You're still not black. And everybody knows it. Well, everybody who knows of you knows it. But she needs to go sit down somewhere. Like literally sit down somewhere. But let me go on to the next story. Now we're going to get into some more serious, non-laughing or non-shaking our head type of topics. So I wanted to talk about, hold on, this story right here. Let me pause this right quick. Okay. So a lot of people have been wanting me to talk about this woman right here, who I think her name is Brittany Smith. Yes, her name is Brittany Smith. And this is coming out of Wake County, North Carolina, where she was a black woman who was pregnant and they found her body stuffed in a suitcase. Like, whoa. That's like the second story I think I've come across this year about someone stuffing a body in a suitcase. Because remember, if you remember, on my main channel, I did a story about this PC man who was traveling through the airport and they had stuffed body parts in a suitcase and they found it in the airport. Crazy. But yeah, so you have this story right. It's meant. That is crazy. Let me go ahead and read the story. And by the way, this is her right here where I'm hovering the mouse over. That's her. They said the family of a pregnant Wake County woman whose body was found in a suitcase last week celebrated her life on Wednesday. At least 100 of Brittany Smith's friends and family gathered in Nightdale to release balloons and doves in honor of her and her unborn baby Aspen. Smith's family described her as a person who loved to joke. They want remembered for those traits. I think that person made a typo. For those traits, not by her circumstances or struggles. As you see, we don't have a casket because unfortunately whoever did this to her made us so that we would never see her again. So to stuff her into a suitcase like that, that means they probably dismembered her. They had to have, because how do you stuff a whole body in there unless it's a small body? And I mean, when I say small, I'm talking like a child. They said Tyesha Williams Troy Smith, family spokeswoman. The last time we saw her would be the last time. So we have to remember her face in our minds and in the pictures that we have. 2 people have been charged with the murder of Smith and her unborn baby. I'm going to click on this because I think that's going to lead me to who they are. Her family tells CBS 17 they will fight to bring them to justice. Look at this. Let me see if I can play this news clip. Hold on. Okay.
A couple sitting in the Wake County jail accused of killing a pregnant woman and then stuffing her body in a suitcase.
Now, CBS 17's Liz Ortiz live in Wake County with what we know about the suspects. Liz?
Well, Bill and Randy, arrest warrants in this case show the victim, Brittany Smith, was 6 months pregnant with a boy. Now, Wake County officials have not released a motive in this killing, but the 2 suspects are due in court at 9 this morning, and that is when we hope to learn more details in this case. Now, take a look. Authorities arrested this couple, 37-year-old Thomas Johnson and his girlfriend, 24-year-old Emily Trevethan. The sheriff wouldn't say how the suspects knew the victim, Brittany Smith. Smith was last seen a week ago today. And investigators say she was strangled. Arrest warrants also show her body was found stuffed in a purple suitcase near the Neuse River in Raleigh.
And it's very emotional. Imagine that. As a young person, young lady, regardless of what type of life, how life is for any of us. You know, no one deserves to have their life taken.
Now, Sheriff Baker went on to say his thoughts and prayers are with Smith's family at this time. Johnston and Trevethan are charged with murder of an unborn child, and concealment of a body. We're live in Wake County. Liz Ortiz, CBS 17 News.
Now, notice something here.
New developments are a really upsetting story.
Notice the name of the river. Neuse River. It's pronounced Neuse River. It's not spelled like the noose that you know what I'm talking about, but it's Neuse River. That's where they said that she was found. Like she was thrown into the Neuse River after being strangled and stuffed. Stuffed. You know, when you stuff things, you have to shove it in and then seal it shut. Like you just can't place it in and zip it up. You have to push something in and then close it. So they said that she was strangled and then stuffed into a suitcase and thrown into the Neuse River, which means by the time they found her body, it probably started decomposing because of all of that water and the stuff that's inside of that river. But these are the 2 right here, the 2 devils that was responsible for her murder. They said the search for the pregnant Wake County woman began last weekend after she had been reported missing several days earlier. So she was already gone for several days. So imagine how long her body was floating in that river in that suitcase. They said she was 6 months pregnant. They said this was no accident. Somebody had put down in the comment section that they believe that her boyfriend was involved. I don't know too much about that. I didn't, but I don't know she had a boyfriend, but someone said that they think that the boyfriend was involved. Okay, it says, according to Williams, deputies weren't interested in what was inside of his home, but focused outside where Smith and her boyfriend had been living in a tent for months. Look at the living conditions that they were in. He said she and her boyfriend were living in a tent. Because I think, and I could be wrong, but y'all can correct me on this. I think Brittany Smith and her boyfriend were squatting. I think that they were squatting. And, you know, go find a vacant home that's on the market and you just sit there and you just basically live out there and be out by the next day. Or live somewhere in that vicinity like a backyard. But that kind of raised a red flag for me. Like, she was pregnant living in a tent. But yeah, maybe they do, now that I think about it, maybe they do need to question that boyfriend. Because they don't mention him by name. They just said she had a boyfriend. But as for these two, I don't know if North Carolina honors the death penalty or capital punishment. But if they do, put them on the list and put them close to the top of the list, if possible. Yeah, Dana, the victim, Brittany Smith, and her boyfriend were living in a tent. Let me see where I can find it at. Where is it at? Because I just saw the quote right here. According to Williams, and deputies were interested in what was inside of his home, but focused outside, where Smith and her boyfriend had been living in a tent for months. This is warrants for Johnson and that's these two right here. It's safe to say there's no accident. No one deserves to die like that. Let me see. I'll do that then. But yeah, there it is. Now, I'm seeing people say that her boyfriend was a PC male. Now, I'm seeing that quite often. And I think he was, because I think I saw someone do a story about this and they had a picture of her and her boyfriend. Yeah, this story is kind of like, it's kind of crazy. But the thing is, they were living in a tent outside of their house, though. Why weren't they in their house? It's so many questions that I have about this story. So many. But this is gonna be one hell of an investigation, that's for sure. But they now that I'm learning a little bit more, they definitely need to question the boyfriend at this point, because at this point I can't see him being a complete and innocent party in all of this. Not at all. But yeah, let me go ahead and move on to the next story. So y'all remember I did a live stream a couple weeks ago about that 9-year-old girl who was pepper sprayed in Rochester, New York. Well, they have just now released the names of the terrorist that was involved with that incident, that I know was hard for many of you to listen to, because I know it was hard for me to listen to. It says Rochester, New York officials on Friday released the names of 4 white police officers who have been suspended or put on administrative leave in the wake of pepper spraying a 9-year-old black girl. The Democrat and Chronicle reported that all of the named officers have been a part of the Rochester department for less than 6 years. So together, as a collective, they all have less than a decade under their belt. As a collective. That doesn't surprise me. But then again, even if they had over a decade, that wouldn't surprise me. Officer Alexander Lombard, on the force for 2.5 years, has been suspended. The Democrat and Chronicle said he was the officer who sprayed a chemical irritant in the face of the upset girl as she was handcuffed to the back of the police car. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, let me pick up where I left off. On administrative leave are Officer Chad Brady on the force for 5.5 years, Officer Adam Bradstreet on serving for 4.5 years, and Officer Hannah Schneeberger in the department for 3.5 years. An internal investigation is pending, which basically means they're going to conduct their own investigate themselves, and probably find themselves clear of wrongdoing. We know how this goes. The city released the latest footage from the January incident on Thursday. The girl's mother, Elba Pope, said she called police during an argument with her spouse, but asked officers to call mental health services when it became clear her 4th grade daughter was headed for a meltdown. They should have called for mental health services for the mother as well, because that mother, the way she was cussing at her daughter sounded like she was talking to one of her homegirls on the street. Video shows officers restraining and scolding the screaming girl, telling her they are losing patience as they struggled in the snow to put her in the back of a police cruiser. It was unclear why the city released the officers' names. Why? Interesting line of words. It was unclear why they released the officers' names. So basically, you didn't want them to release the names. You had intentions of them being concealed until much later on, or not releasing them in hopes that nothing would happen to them. A call seeking comment was made to the city as well, to the police union. That's all fine and everything that they released the names, but let's be real and honest here. Do y'all think anything's actually going to happen to them? I vote no. And you'll see what I mean when I do my next story. Like, that video was hard to listen to. It was hard to get through. Dana said her mama needs her head examined for calling the cops on her 9-year-old. Because really, I think the mother is the one who really escalated it to the next level, to be honest. And notice, like I said, they tased the girl, but they didn't tase the mother. And the mother was the one that was trying to get physical with the daughter a few times. She verbally abused her, and she physically tried to abuse her. And I think a couple times she did grab her, but the cop was there to kind of keep her from really yoking her up. Okay, I see the people in the chat do agree with me, like, don't expect much out of it. Exactly. I don't expect much out of this at all. But like I said, that girl gonna need a lot of therapy because she saw and experienced a lot that day. Let me move on to the next story. So speaking of nothing happening to these cops, who remembers this story right here? Who remembers this story right here? It happened in upstate New York, Buffalo, New York, where they were having, like the protests and everything like that. So this was last year, I think, right around the time of George Floyd. I want to say it was around George Floyd, where you had this horde of cops right here had pushed this older man down to the ground, where he hit the back of his head. And if you can look right here where my mouse is at, that's blood coming out of the back of his head. So they broke the skin. And I think he had a concussion. They pushed him to the ground, and then they kind of looked at him and kept it moving. Charges were brought up against the cops. And now, as you can see, 2 days ago, presented by the Associated Press, charges dropped. You said he later died? Danny said he later died? I hope that the family goes after them as much as they possibly can. Let's see here. Criminal charges have been dropped against 2 officers seen on video last spring shoving a 75-year-old protester to the ground in Buffalo, New York. A grand jury declined to indict Buffalo officers Robert McCabe and Aaron Torgowski on felony assault charges. Erie County District Attorney John Flynn said, ending a matter that drew national attention at the height of protests over the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Messages seeking comment were left with lawyers representing the officers. A message was also left with the man who was pushed to the ground, longtime activist Martin Gugino. John Evans, president of the Buffalo Police Benevolent Association, told the Buffalo News, "Obviously, we are ecstatic with their decision. These officers have been put through hell, and I look forward to seeing them back on the job." Of course you're excited. And it's crazy because all they did was push this elderly man to the ground. And I think they said that he did die. So you're basically happy about that. Dear PC, it was at this moment right here that y'all should have realized that y'all could get it too. And this was an older man. Someone who's probably old enough to be their grandfather. They said Flynn, echoing earlier statements, said he didn't necessarily feel that the altercation rose to the level of a felony, but that state law required prosecutors to bring such a charge when a victim is at least 65 and the suspected perpetrators are at least 10 years younger. Addressing criticism that he played down on sandbagged the case, Flynn said prosecutors made a thorough presentation to the grand jury, but citing secrecy rules, said he couldn't discuss what witnesses were called or what evidence was presented. The grand jury heard the case on a delayed basis because of COVID-related court closures. Flynn said throughout the investigation, video of the shove remained the primary evidence. This was not the JFK assassination, Flynn said. This was not the complex of a case. The video that was taken speaks for itself. A news crew covering protests in downtown Buffalo last June over Floyd's death in Minneapolis captured video of the officers shoving Gugino to the ground in front of a city hall as crowd control officers in riot gear cleared demonstrators from the area of an 8 p.m. curfew. Gugino pushed backwards, started bleeding almost immediately after hitting his head on the pavement, and spent about a month in the hospital with a fractured skull. Then, 45, a harsh critic of the nationwide demonstrations against biased policing and racial injustice, suggested Gugino, a social worker, had over-dramatized the encounter with the police. Okay, Dana, I'm reading this right now, and it doesn't say anything about this guy dying. Because if he was dead, they would have mentioned it. And I don't see anything in here about him dying. It says, I watched, he fell harder than was pushed. Was aiming scanner. Could be a setup. 45 acts on June 9th, posing the question on his Twitter account. McCabe and Torgowski were suspended without pay and arrested within days. They pled not guilty and were released without bail pending further developments. Flynn said at a news conference Thursday that national attention on the case had no influence on his decision to charge the officers right away. All I need is probable cause for an arrest, Flynn said. When I go to trial, though I need a beyond a reasonable doubt. At this point right now, it says it's 50-50 in my mind as to whether or not it was intentional or reckless. If it's 50-50, that's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That analysis factors into my mind, but I can't articulate to you what was going on in the grand juror's mind. The Buffalo News reported that the Buffalo Police Department will begin an internal affairs investigation again, investigating themselves. They never have outside investigations done, and we know why that is. A development that had been on hold because of the criminal case, a message seeking comment was left with a police spokesperson. In the wake of the officers' suspensions, nearly 60 other members of the department's crowd control unit said they could no longer serve on the unit, effectively shutting it down. The city responded by replacing the emergency response team with a public protection unit designed to work with groups seeking to peacefully protest. Other reforms in the wake of the protests included halting arrests for low-level nonviolent offenses like marijuana possession and making it easier for the public to view police body camera video. So there you go. They pushed this man down, could have killed him, caused him to bleed out of the back of his head. And you should have saw the way that they just kind of like, this one cop did like a stare down at him, like he just kind of like looked at him and just kept it moving. And then this one right here, it looked like he was about to help him, but yeah, this one right here that told him, nah, keep going. And they just walked around and walked over him. right, Jordan, that investigation ain't going nowhere. And I'm glad you put investigation in quotations. That investigate, if you want to call it that, is not going anywhere. They probably, whenever they say that, I think they just get on camera just to say it because they have to say it. They don't want to say it, but they have to. And they don't do nothing. It's just there. It is what it is. But nothing's going to come of this. Well, clearly it's not, because the charges got dropped. So there's nothing left to investigate. They're back on the job. We barely knew who these two men were. These two terrorists. We barely knew who they were. Well, let me move on to the next story. Okay, so this story right here is wild, and it could have ended badly. And it also shows that, and we're back in North Carolina, and it also shows that these PC cops ain't shit. They really aren't. So basically what happened was, you had this black woman who came home from doing whatever, and she spots not one, but two white men in her home. They came into her home. And they would think of the story Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You know how the Three Bears went out to do their thing? And Goldilocks came in and started eating their food and sleeping in their bed and messing through their things. That's what these two guys did. Went in her home, messing with her stuff, eating her food, and had the nerve to put on her boyfriend's clothing. Or was her ex-boy? I forget if it was ex or current boyfriend's clothing. Like when you saw the actual clip, you actually saw them standing right there, wearing her boyfriend's clothes. And when the cops came, they acted like, okay, so they broke in. What do you want us to do? Excuse me. These two people intruded into my space, started messing with my stuff, and you're questioning me why I called you to do your job. Let me go ahead and read this. It says, a black woman in Raleigh, North Carolina, who found two white burglars in her home is lashing out at the police, who responded to the scene and allegedly showed a nonchalant approach to the situation. According to ABC 11, Shanay Porter made the call to police after coming home and finding the perpetrators, who were lounging in her living room, eating her food, and wearing her ex-boyfriend's clothes. Like, they were just kicking back like that was their home. When I put my key in the door, it was open, Porter told the news station. I just looked at him and said, "Who are you?" And he started coming toward me, and I hurried and closed the door. I didn't know what to think or what to say. I was so speechless. I've never seen anything like this before. Now, it was at this moment that I wish she had a firearm, because she would have been that would have been a perfect time to defend yourself. But with the way that they were so nonchalant with how they dealt with them, when she called the police to come to her home and deal with the situation, they probably would have said that she was the intruder. Knowing them, let them tell it. That's how it would have went. But like I said, this is why a lot of people, this is why you have to exercise that, I'm about to say fifth, that Second Amendment right. You have every right to do so and defend yourself. We know how it is when it comes to us and owning a firearm, because America. But still, at the same time, if she was packing, the minute he started to come towards her, pop, that would have been the end. Now, this is a picture of her right here. If you see, this is her right here. And this is a picture right here of them in her home. That's the cop right there. I don't know why they blurred out the intruder like he's supposed to be needing some kind of protection. He don't. And that's the one right there. You can look at, those are the clothes. That's one of the intruders in her ex's clothes. The fact of the matter is, I believe that these two guys were watching her home and were watching her come and leave. And they were waiting for her to leave. And then that's when they made a move. Because I don't want to believe that this was just random. Well, maybe it was random in the aspect of they were trying to figure out whose house they were going to go to. But they saw her. She left and they went in. And I would not be surprised if they've done this before. It's just that this time they got caught. Now, what if they had a weapon and they fired off at her coming into the home? How much you want to bet they probably still would have got off? Let's not forget, Amber Geiger went into what she thought was her apartment when she killed Botham Jean. And how many years in prison did she get? I'll give you a hint. Not enough. But this woman comes home from doing whatever she was doing, and she finds two strangers in her home eating her food, lounging, and wearing her ex-boyfriend's clothes. She calls the cops, and they just act like why did you call us? But like I said, and I've actually made a joke of this before. I said, don't let them touch your stuff, because once they touch it, they'll automatically think it's yours. Y'all probably heard me say something along those lines. This is a perfect example of that. They walked into this woman's home where she eats, where she sleeps, where she lounges, where she pays the bills. And they came up in there and did all of that for free and put on her ex's clothes. That's crazy. I couldn't even imagine how she felt. She was probably scared out of her mind. She was like, wait a minute, I don't know y'all, and y'all weren't here when I left. The Raleigh resident and her neighbors who watched the officer's reaction with the two white men said there was a lack of urgency from the police. I called police for help and the officers talked to them like they're good people. They just broke into my house, the woman said. If I was a white woman and I called and said it was two black intruders in my house, I feel like they would have had them out of my house immediately. Shoot, they probably would have been blood stained on the floor. One neighbor recorded video of the officer's interaction with the caller. What I don't understand is why these two men are still in my house, Porter is heard saying on the video. Responding to the woman, one officer said, well, right now we're trying to figure out what's going on. Neighbors tried to advocate for Porter as she struggled to understand what the police were trying to do. She is a victim, and I want to see her treated as a victim, one person said. There is a foreign man in her home. Police proceeded to explain why the burglars remained inside after deputies arrived. You have to understand. That's why we have them detained in there, ma'am, an officer said. At this point in time, what's safest for us and every single person out here is to deal with them in that situation, detain them, and then bring them out afterward. That's not explaining why they're in her home. That's just white-splaining why you have detained them and really haven't detained them. Because I'm looking at that picture, and that guy is not in cuffs. That's not detaining. In my honest opinion, detaining means you have them in cuffs, you're carrying them out by their arm, and you're guiding them to the car and to take them down to the station. I did not see that. It looked like he was just having a casual conversation, and notice the look on the cop's face. He's looking back as if he's so worried. Yeah, you're being recorded. I hope she got that man's badge number and department he works for and all his higher ups, and snatches away his job. Let's see. The neighbor demanded swift action from the police, saying, get them detained outside. You can detain them outside. Even her neighbors are out there saying, what is this cop doing? Why is he just holding them on the inside? And that's another thing. You could have detained them outside. Why you detain them on the inside? What take you so long to get them outside? Because now it looks even more sketchy. Oh, one question. Did this cop know him? Did the cop know these two guys? Or at least one of them? They need to look into that. Did this cop know them? Did he know them? Police eventually arrested 35-year-old Charles Murray and 45-year-old Brian Capel, charging them with breaking and entering. The two men in this incident were arrested. This is a criminal investigation, police said in a statement. The Raleigh Police Department is reviewing the actions of the officers internally to ensure the policy and procedure were followed. But Porter is still furious. I don't even feel safe with calling the police anymore, she said, because it's like you never know. A GoFundMe with a goal of $5,000 has been set up to help Porter replace her damaged things. It says, they said damage of property, relocate and replace damaged furniture. Wow. Alexander Weiss, a staffing expert who has helped reform police departments in several cities around the country, said many minority communities are refusing to call officers when they need help, particularly showing a mistrust in law enforcement after last year's highly publicized incidents of police brutality. According to USA Today, Weiss led a study in Baltimore, Maryland, which concluded that white affluent areas of the city call officers more than twice as much as neighborhoods populated with minority groups. Is one of the biggest challenges here. Avatar Smith Carrington, a law fellow at Lambda Legal, a New York-based organization that supports the academy rights, said widespread harassment and discrimination still exists at the hands of police. Smith Carrington added that many black and brown people, particularly those in the academy, are afraid to report crimes because they have a fear of being harassed themselves. They could have left this part out. They just had to slip that in. But anyway, see, now this woman probably doesn't even want to go back in that home anymore. Her space has been violated by intruders. I wouldn't be surprised if this woman moves. Right then, I just said that as soon as you typed it, she needs to move. Because like her home is all over the news and the internet now. Like, you got to ask yourself, like, what will possess somebody to do that? Like, really, what will possess somebody to go into someone's home and just chill like it's nothing, like the person isn't coming back? What, did they think she was going on vacation? Good thing she wasn't gone for a long time, because who knows what her home could have turned into. They could have started calling people up to come over and have a party or whatever. And then on top of that, we are dealing with WOVID. Who knows what those guys have? But anyway, let me move on to what I believe is my last topic. And y'all listen. Listen. It's the reason I saved this one for the end. Because y'all are going to need all the energy in the world to deal with this. Y'all ready? Okay. Let's talk about Herschel Walker, unfortunately, and him speaking at this HR 40 reparations meeting that just plays off like yet another farce. Let me see if I can move this over some. This is going to be... Listen, let me tell y'all something. I actually had the displeasure of listening to this yesterday. Now, this is just Herschel Walker's part. I didn't listen to Larry Elder. I don't care to listen to Larry Elder. But everyone kept talking about Herschel Walker. Like his talking points for this kept coming up. So, in case y'all have not heard it, I'm going to play it for you. It's going to be some stop and go because I'm definitely going to interject. Like I said, I actually heard this yesterday. So I already know what he's about to say. And it's literally one big BS burger. Like, you know how you put a burger there? It's not a beef patty or a turkey patty. It's a shit patty. Grilled up and served on a plate. So, I'm about to start playing it. Let me get some stuff adjusted here. Let me turn the volume up. Okay. All right, let's go.
This opportunity to speak on reparation, which has been spoken about many times over my lifetime, but over the past year has become a hot topic. I asked the question, why? There's been many surveys show that a large percentage of black and white teens would say racism is better today than yesterday.
He said he has talked to black and white teens that will say to you that racism is better today than it was back then. Two things, Herschel Walker. Two things. One, who are these black and white teens that you have talked to? I need faces. I need names. I need job well, they said teens. So most of them don't have a job. I need to see faces and I need to know names. I need to see who their parents are. Number two, racism back then, racism today, tomorrow, next year, in the future was never good. He's already off to a bad start and we aren't even 20 seconds in.
We use black power to create white guilt.
We use black power to create white guilt. So you already know what direction he's headed with this one. Like, listen, he pulled out every dub S talking point he could in, how long is this video? 5 minutes and 53 seconds.
My approach is biblical. How can I ask my Heavenly Father to forgive me if I can't forgive my brother? I never want to put anyone's religion down, but my religion teaches togetherness. Reparation teaches separation.
So he brought religion into this, and he said reparations teaches separation. Y'all heard it. He said reparations teaches separation. Those were his words. Y'all heard it straight from his mouth. So black people getting reparations is going to separate us from the group. Many other groups have gotten their reparations and they haven't separated from the group. It's actually improved their position within the group. And if we wanted to separate Herschel Walker, what any business is it of theirs or of yours? And yes, I'm saying of his, even though he would be considered FBA, ADOS, however you want to call it, because the man is from Georgia. And I think he does have 2 black American born parents. What we decide to do with our reparations, should we get them and receive them, is our business. I actually talked about this on Twitter the other day. Notice there's always a study that's being done on black people when it comes to reparations, but they'll never do a study on any other group. I said they could be giving out reparations to anybody, but they want to do a study on us to make sure it's going to the right people. They keep doing these baseless studies because at the end of the day, they don't want to pay up. They don't want to pay what they owe.
Slavery ended over 130 years ago. How can a father be asked his son to spend prison time for a crime he committed?
He said slavery was over 100 years ago, and then used the narrative of a father spending time in prison, away from his son and some other BS. Listen, I'm not even going to try to make sense of anything that he says, because nothing he's saying right now makes sense. None of it.
In the case we speak of, we're researching farther back in history, a history many are not taught or spoken about in school. America is the greatest country in the world to me, a melting pot of a lot of great races, a lot of great minds that have come together with different ideas to make America the greatest country on earth. Many have died trying to get into America. No one is dying trying to get out. Reparation. Where will the money come from? Does it come for all the other races except the black taxpayers?
Before I go forward, isn't it interesting that he's supposed to be making a case for reparations, but all he's doing is making a case against it? And I was going to say this for the end, but let me just say it right now. Herschel Walker did not write this. Let's get that straight right now. Herschel Walker did not write what he is reading. And you can tell by what is written, what is typed up, who wrote it, who typed it, and it wasn't him. And he can barely read it. Like, he can barely get through these simple declarative sentences. He is stumbling over basic elementary school words. I can only imagine what his twirling son had to say after looking at this video.
Who is black? What percentage of black must you be to receive reparation?
Like I said, he's using every dub as talking point. Like that part about who would receive it, where would it come from? That's something we have heard from PC Often, all the time when it comes to this topic. Who's going to receive it? Who's going to pay it? How about the people that have to pay it or deserve to pay it? And then he had the nerve to mention about black taxpayers having to pay it. Why would we fund our own reparations? That's not the point. If that was the case, we would have been had it if we really wanted it. No, that money's not going to come from the black taxpayers. That's going to come from those who it's supposed to come from. And they know exactly who they are. The beneficiaries of what our ancestors had to go through.
Do you go to 23andMe or a DNA test to determine the percentage of blackness? Some American ancestors just came to this country 80 years ago. Their ancestor wasn't even here during slavery. Some black immigrants weren't here during slavery, nor their ancestors. Some states didn't even have slavery.
So basically what he's trying to say is that if you are a black immigrant and you came here, how do we know to differentiate you from those who have ancestry that dates back to actually being from here? That's actually, when you think about it, it's actually not as hard as they're trying to put it out there to be. They're trying to, when they say stuff like that, they're trying to make it seem like it's impossible to do. So why even bother trying?
We as black Americans have always wanted what the Constitution stated: all men, black, white, and today Latino, Asian, Italian, etc., should be guaranteed the alienability rights of life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Years later, after slavery ended, Dr. King, I Have a Dream speech, said this.
Here it is. The insertion of the bastardizing of Dr. King. Another Dub-S talking point.
The signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was a great beacon of light.
First off, Herschel, if you educated yourself, you would know that the Emancipation Proclamation was not what they bastardized it to be when it pertains to us. He would have been better off just saying Juneteenth. But he probably doesn't even know what that is. We'll ask Herschel Walker, what's Juneteenth? Is it a ball that happens in June? Is probably what his response would be.
But hundreds of years later, we're still not free because of segregation and discrimination. Today, I call that reparation.
Did y'all just hear that? Let me run that part back.
Of years later, we're still not free because of segregation and discrimination. Today, I call that reparation.
Did y'all hear that? He actually said that reparations and not reparations, that's discrimination and segregation. He calls that reparations. How is that repairing anything? I told y'all you will be stressed out by this video. I told y'all would be stressed out by this video. I already am. I'm there.
I asked my mom, who is in her mid-80s, her thought on reparation. Her words, I do not believe in reparation. Who is the money going to go to? Has anyone thought about paying the families who lost someone in the Civil War?
First off, how many of you in the chat actually believe he actually talked to his 80-year-old mother about reparations? I don't. I don't believe he talked to his mother. Just like I don't believe he talked to those black and white teens that he talked about earlier in this video. And you can tell he didn't write this. He's, like I said, he's struggling. He's flipping through the pages, like making sure that he's reading all the right stuff. He didn't talk to his mother. That man did not talk to his 80-year-old plus mother. And now watch, he gonna talk about something with the Civil War.
Fought for their freedom. Your dad and I taught you, speaking of me, to provide for you and your family through a good education and hard work.
So he mentioned something about the Civil War, and this is allegedly the conversation he had with his mother. So you're telling me that your mother doesn't believe that black people, the descendants of slaves, should receive reparations, but the descendants of the Civil War, who was mainly PC, should get reparations? That's what you're saying, Herschel. You're going to sit up there and tell this lie that you talked to your mother. This man did not talk to his mother. I don't believe that.
If you give a man a fish, you feed him a day. You teach him to fish, you feed him a lifetime. Reparation is only feeding you for a day. It's removing the sign of for whites only, replacing the sign for no education here.
He said reparations only feeds us a day. I don't know how that would translate, because I highly doubt that trillions of dollars could be spent in a day.
Black America is asking for a hand up, not a handout.
Oh, listen to this. He slipped up. He messed up. Let me run that back. This is the part I was waiting on.
Replacing the sign for no education here. Black America is asking for a hand up, not a handout.
Listen to what he said. Black America is looking for a hand up, not a hand out. Thank you for saying that, Herschel. That's probably the best thing you said in this whole crap soup that is stirring right now. He said black Americans are looking for a hand up, not a hand out. He meant to say a hand out and not a hand up, because the hand out would look more insulting. The hand up actually looks more beneficial. But he's so stupid, he didn't even correct himself. He just kept on reading, or trying to read what was typed up for him, because he know he didn't write it. This isn't even his life story.
Another big question, who is the guilty party? Should we start at the beginning, where African Americans sold the African American ancestors into slavery?
And there's that talking point about black people selling other black people into slavery. While granted, some of that might actually be true, we know what talking point and angle he's coming at it with. So he's basically saying, well, if you're looking for reparations, why don't you go back to the African nations that sold you into slavery and get it from them? Because after all, how else did you get here? Like, we just didn't come, like the Europeans didn't just come over and just snatch you. They had to be sold to us, is what he's saying.
And to a slave trader who eventually sold the African American ancestors to slave owners. The slave owners who had no success and no luck trying to make a Native American whose land they took become their slave, because the Native American ran away. Well, they thought it was fine then.
And notice how he's smiling as he's reading this. He's smiling as he's reading this part. Like it's almost like he finds it entertaining. You know how a child reads a book and there's a part of the book that they like and they start to smile and they start to laugh and they get excited. Notice how he smiled and got excited at that part. Let me run that back a little bit.
Sold the African American ancestors to slave owners. The slave owners who had no success and no luck trying to make a Native American whose land they took become their slave, because the Native American ran away.
See, right there. He got so excited about reading about Native Americans that it put a smile on his face. The one time he was smirked in this whole video. But when it came to talking about black people, stone face could barely read it. Notice how his voice kind of perked up too. Like it's almost like his reading got better. But when it came to reading about us, it was like reading the big fat cow jumped over the moon. The pig is about to be turned into. What is that B word? That's that 5-letter word that stands with a B. AC. That word. Yeah, that word. The sky is blue. Whatever that color is. Is that a color? But when he got to the Native Americans, oh, the Native Americans. Pocahontas. Tell me y'all didn't see that. Tell me y'all did not catch that. Let me continue.
Well, they thought it was fine then to use African American who didn't know the country, didn't know the language, didn't know the religion, and they didn't run away. So I asked, why reparation? Well, slavery is because to the year 2021.
Even his internet connection wanted him to stop talking. It started to glitch. I thought that was my computer, but his internet started to glitch. They didn't even want him to finish talking because even his internet knows that it was a load of crap.
Still talking about reparation, not equal education, not to compare a game to a horrible period in my life, but as I fought shoulder to shoulder with my fellow football brothers of other races, I saw struggles they were encountering the same as I, and I heard them.
He even sounds like your typical mush mouth Sambo. And it's crazy because I was just watching clips from Django the other day, and it was the part where Calvin Candy in Candyland, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, when he got killed. And right after he was killed, you had Samuel L. Jackson's character Steven like, oh my gosh, Calvin. That part always cracked me. Oh, and I always think of the memes. That's what Herschel Walker sounds like right now. That's what he sounds like to me. Reading this. And like somebody said in the chat, you can tell he didn't write this because if he wrote it, he would not be looking at the paper the whole time. Not one time in this video, except in the very beginning when he was being addressed, did he give eye contact with the camera. He looked down and read his paper, his little pre-prepared speech that he could barely read the whole time.
Them speak to their parents of problems my family were dealing with as well. If a black player would have been given something different than any other player, it would have created problems within the team, separation and division. Ezekiel 18:20, the righteousness of the right shall be upon him. The son shall not suffer for the crime of the father, nor the
Look, he got low bandwidth. That's why you can only hear him and not see him.
father suffer the crime of the
Like, how do you got all this money and you got a low bandwidth? What's up with that?
son, unless either father or son know beforehand the father or son was a criminal. To help
And notice that he's throwing biblical phrases in there. Now, I'm admitted, I'm not a Bible reader. But there are some Bible thumpers out there who can translate what he said and knows that him trying to use it for what he's using it for right now does not add up. It doesn't make sense.
any race, provide them with a good quality education and help incentivize through opportunities with responsibilities, which helps generations in the future. If reparation is a fee or a correction for a terrible sin of slave owners,
I always like to look at body language. He even says his words with his lips all out like this. He looking like, you know how Wanda looked on in Living Color, Jamie Foxx. That's him. And throwing that heavy, thick country accent, and it makes it no better. Herschel Walker needs to come with closed captionings at all times. This is actually my first time really hearing him talk, because I never really paid attention to him talking before.
government and others, but we punish the non-guilty party. Is it not creating division or separation with different races? I feel it continues to let us know we're still African American rather than just American. reparation or atonement is outside the teaching of Jesus Christ.
He just said that atonement is outside of the teachings of Jesus Christ. We can tell that this guy has never read his Bible. Now, like I said, I'm not a Bible reader, but even I know what he said was a load of crap. It's like, does he even know what the definition of the word atonement is? Clearly he doesn't, for him to say that. That's how you know that Herschel Walker is not the brightest bulb in the box. As a matter of fact, he's the defective one. You know how sometimes you go and buy something and you get brand new and it might be a part that's defective? He's that defective part. It's like he did not even examine what he was going to read. They was like, look, nigga, we want you to read this. Don't ask any questions. You just sit in front of that camera, you be a good old nigga, and you read to the best of your ability. This guy reads like he just got off the plantation. Like, you can tell he was the typical jock in school. You know how they always say you have the big dumb jock? That's him. And when I was looking at it and examining like this yesterday, I had learned a lot of stuff about Herschel Walker that a lot of the public did not know. Now, I can't really remember everything that was said, but when I heard it, it put into perspective about why this guy is the way that he is. Did you know that he actually knew Donald Trump way before 45 was president? It's not like he just now learned about 45. He knew about 45 way back then, because I think 45 had gave him a leg up or something like that. I said, now it all makes sense why he's always hanging off of 45's nutsack. This guy he is literally in the Butter Biscuits Hall of Fame. Because clearly, I don't think he's going to make it into the NFL Hall of Fame, but he's in the Butter Biscuits Hall of Fame for sure. It's almost over.
Who you are teaching, who will not be teaching the word of God.
That's the first. This right here is the first time he looked up. This entire video was the first time he looked up. At the end of the video's pretty much over. It was something else that he had said too, but I can't remember. I don't know where that clip is at, but I'm gonna see if I can remember. There was some pictures that were presented, and I think we've seen them before, of lynching of a black man, while you had white people looking at looking up and smiling. I think we've all seen that picture. You've also seen the picture where you had the slave that had all these lacerations from the whip on his back, and he had the nerve to question, I think, the time period of the pictures. I can't remember. And of course, he brought in a lie about his mother again. I'm like, get this guy off the stage. Get him off the stage. Thank you, Everyday Peoples. He said that he played on Trump's USFL team. Right. Thank you. But y'all just got a almost 6 minute glimpse at I don't want to say it, but the unisms, I'll say it like this, of Herschel Walker. And now you know why his twirling son, Christian Walker, is the way that he is. This shows right here that unism, I'm just paraphrasing, is or can be, in some cases, passed down. Thank God, luckily, that it will not get passed down any further through his son. Unless there's some desperate chick out there that wants a child so bad with him that she would, yeah. But you never know. There are those out there that would do that just to have a child. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that. And his glasses is crooked. Look at him. His glasses are not sitting right. Them things is crooked. Remember how I told y'all, don't trust a woman with a crooked wig? Don't trust a man with no facial hair? This man has a crooked glasses and no facial hair. He just has a faded mustache. This is just wow. Wow. But anyway, with that being said, hold on. That's going to conclude this live stream. First off, before I get out of here, shout out to everybody who bear with me for the week. I know this is not traditionally how I would do things, but you know what the circumstances are. Like I said, this will be the live stream channel going forward. So that means when I get back on track, which will be next Friday, this will be the channel that I will be going live from now on. I'm not going to go live on my main channel anymore. I guess I want to build this one up. And we are at 1,300 subscribers on this channel right now. We're on 1,300. We started at 989 and we are over 1,300. And that's amazing growth for about a week because it started off last week. But tomorrow the ban will be off my channel. So I will start putting videos back up on that channel tomorrow. Thank God. Because I know people have missed me over there. I know I have missed putting content out over there as well. I'm pretty much now all cut up with the news and everything like that. That's why I was doing these live streams. But I'm glad that everybody came through. Shout out to everybody who has contributed. And I'm seeing a lot of laugh emojis down there. I'm glad that I was able to entertain y'all through this video. Listen, I had to do something. Because this video would have had y'all drained. And I had to do something to keep y'all up, you know, with this. None of it was rehearsed, unlike his little scripted whatever he was reading. This was all off the fly. I have my moments when I can be goofy at times, but man, it's hard. With that being said, y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be back on the main channel, so I know y'all can't wait for that. Of course, like I told y'all before, I will be going away this weekend. So if y'all don't hear from me as much, like, you know, interact with you as much, I will be preoccupied, like, starting tomorrow after a certain time, pretty much all day Saturday and Sunday, I'm coming back home. So, yeah, y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, stay warm. To the people out there in Texas, all I can say is just keep your hopes high as possible. Keep your hopes as high as you possibly can, because y'all are going through it out there. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Trust me.